guys, welcome back to We Should Talk, a pop culture interview series from In the Know. I'm your host, Gibson Johns, and today on the podcast we have Gigi Gorgeous, who is an actress, model, YouTube star, trans activist, and she also recently co-authored her second book titled The Tea Guide, Our Trans Experiences and a Celebration of Gender Expression, Man, Woman, Non-Binary, and Beyond. And she wrote it with Gottmik, who is a RuPaul's Drag Race alum. He was the first trans man to compete on RuPaul's Drag Race a couple of years ago. He got to the finals, and they are really good friends. And so they wrote this book, which they really hope will serve as a guide, an all-encompassing guide for both people going through their own transition journeys, trans people, or also allies. They have contributions from allies and other trans people, and it really is supposed to be sort of a way to answer any question that you might have about the trans experience, about what it's like to transition, whether, again, you're going through that yourself or you know somebody that is, or you just want to know more about it. It really seems that it's going to be an incredible resource for so many people, and it comes out on Tuesday, May 16th, so get your copy. And we had a really beautiful conversation about it. You know, it's obviously a really poignant time for this book to be released. You know, the trans community is continuously under attack and targeted. And for this book to come out as, again, a not only a resource, but also a beacon of hope. I mean, it's written by two modern day trans icons, and you know, it's really, really important. And so we had just had a really great conversation, Gigi and I loved getting to chat with her. And again, this book really just seems like it's going to be such an important resource and tool for people. And I'm just so excited for it to be out in the world. So keep listening for my interview with Gigi Gorgeous and check out the Tea Guide, which is released on Tuesday, May 16th, and get your copy wherever you get your books. Thanks, guys. All right, so we're here with Gigi Gorgeous, trailblazer, icon, actress, model, now two-time author. Gigi, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
I'm amazing. I'm so excited to be sitting down and talking with you. And it's a second book time. I'm so excited.
So the Tea Guide, we're talking the week before the Tea Guide is released, and the subtitle, I want to get it right, but it is Our Trans Experiences and a Celebration of Gender Expression, Man, Woman, Non-Binary, and Beyond. You co-authored with Gottmik, who is a Drag Race alum. Tell me about the book and maybe who it's for.
The book is for Gottmik and I's younger selves, honestly, but it's for anybody that needs guidance within their transition. Him and I both started our transitions at very different times in our lives. I did mine many years before him, but him and I, you would think that a trans man and a trans woman would have so many differences within their transitions. And when we started getting really close, he transitioned and we started, becoming best friends and sharing things about our lives. And we were like, there are so many similarities between our transitions. And although there are many differences, of course, we were like, we should really get together and we should join forces and create a first of its kind book/guide, which is why we named it The Guide, which was always, it's funny, it was always the working title. We were like, I think it's going to be called The
Okay.
Guide. Yeah, and a lot of times, like, things like that get changed.
Of course, yeah, all the time.
And stuff, but it just stuck, and it makes sense because it's all of our resources, it's all of our stories, so many of which we've never shared before, and things that are really, really, really personal that I wish that I knew when I was transitioning, because I really only had like one point of reference, which was this one person I knew, or things I saw online. But if you have a book like this, you really have everything. And it's not even just him and I writing in this book. We have so many fabulous people from the community, a lot trans, probably 90% of the contributors are trans. There are some allies as well. And I think that that's really important to note too, because this book isn't strictly for trans people. It's just about the human experience.
So there's also stuff in there that's like, maybe you're just an ally who wants to know more about what that experience is really like. There's information in there for those kinds of people as well.
Yes, including, parents. I know that's a really, really big one. I always get comments and questions about, like, from parents or for parents on how they can do better or what is my parent doing wrong. And we actually included our parents and we included other allies. And we just really wanted to leave no stone unturned, because I feel like this is it would have been a huge drop the ball moment if we forgot about uh, one aspect, which is why
Mm,
we really, really put our brains together and we didn't keep one secret. We're not here to gatekeep anything. And you'll see in the book, you can open the table of contents, which is very long. If there's anything about the trans experience, it's in this book.
mm. So you mentioned sort of that when you were going through your transition, you had one point of reference that was sort of a personal connection, but there really wasn't, a central resource, I would say, for you to really consult and really kind of understand what this is like. Why do you think that didn't exist before? Does that just show sort of how far we've come that you guys now have this space to do that? Or is that I'm just curious what your thoughts are on sort of why it was not available back when you were transitioning?
I mean, it is very discouraging to know that it wasn't available while I was
Mm-hmm.
transitioning, but it came shortly after. There's so many amazing stories within our community, most of which are in our book, the names of which made very prominent moments within pop culture and just history in general. But I think it's something to be said about the time that we're in right now. I
Yeah,
think a lot of people I've talked to are like, "Are you nervous about having this book out right now with all of the bills being proposed and all of that mess?" And I think that there's no better time than right now that we put this out and we fight and we go visit cities on our book tour that are controversial and we stand up for this because it is what matters. In the end, I wish I had a resource like this growing up. And another reason why another reason why we called it the Tea Guide is because we really wanted it to be like almost like a textbook in
mm.
school of
Yeah,
just
makes
everything, right?
sense.
You have your math textbook, you have your science textbook, now you have your trans textbook. And I think, now it is, as far as I know, the first of its kind of book. I know there's tons of trans authors out there that have shared
Of
their
course.
stories, but never a collection like
Yeah,
this.
and there's something subversive almost about you kind of presenting it as a textbook, considering again what is going on right now with what they're banning in schools and what they're talking about. For you to sort of present it as a textbook, there's something really kind of powerful about that. There truly is.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's crazy because books take a while, right? This
Of
took like
course.
a year and a half. So we had no idea really that this would all be going on, obviously. So it just is like, it's just the fate of life, I feel.
Yeah.
And we are fighters, Gottmik and I, and we are not going to stop at anything. And these bills being proposed and all of the negativity and the bigotry being thrown at our community um, is not gonna phase us. We're gonna
Mm-hmm.
show up and show out, and we're gonna fight this battle together.
Mm-hmm. Good. Good. And I'm also curious because you talked about maybe this is really good for fans who are again like going through their own journeys and perhaps are those questions that you kind of get on the daily, either just in your DMs or in your comments from fans or people that follow you as a super prominent figure in the trans community, trying to answer some of these questions that you are now going to answer in the Tea Guide?
Yes, I get so many questions every single day from people that are newly transitioning, that have, begun their transition and are years in, and people who have been trans for over a decade, like myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we really never are fully done transitioning. That's something that I really have, had a come to Jesus moment about over the
Right.
past few years. I thought that there would be a finish line. I thought that there would be, that would be it. But just on a personal note, me and my husband now, who's also trans, we're trying to have biological children,
Mm.
and I'm currently off hormones, which is something I never thought that I would be. And it just goes to show you never know what life is going to throw at you. So it's one of those things where it's always a learning lesson. My dad once said to me, actually, he said, when you transitioned, I thought it was just you that was going to transition, but I learned that it was both of like everyone around you, and
Ah,
especially you and I that really had to transition together.
that's so beautiful.
And I thought that was so profound and beautiful, and it didn't really hit me until a lot later, but it's so true.
Mm.
And I think that this book is just so needed for just moments like that.
100%. And I think to your point about kind of always the transition never being fully over is because you're going through new life events and really uncovering new things that honestly, maybe this book will need a sequel. You know what I mean? Maybe you'll have to do an expansion of the book, because again, you're still living your life and uncovering some of these moments that require kind of more nuance and more explanation. And I think that the fact that you're aware of that, and wanting to share this information with people that are coming after you is really profound.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
yeah, I do get comments every day. Do get a lot of the same comments from, people from the same walks of life, but we have put in every single aspect in this book. Like I said, I feel like Kate and I really, or Gottmik and I rather. People like sometimes are like, wait, who's Kate? I'm like, oh, that's my best friend, but also goes by Gottmik. We get the same questions a lot of the time, and it's like we really put all of those in there and then some.
Right.
So I think people
Awesome.
are they're in
Yeah.
for it, I think, when they
Right.
get this
I
book.
love it. I love it. And I would love to like just go back a little bit, because you talked about your friendship with Gottmik, and you called him your best friend, but I would love to know how you guys first got connected. How did you first cross paths? And just speak to me a little bit more about your friendship, because I love both of you, and it's so
Oh my God.
fun.
Love you too. We actually met at a club in West Hollywood, the Abbey.
Know it.
And yeah, hello. I mean, it's iconic for many reasons. But we really, it was such an organic meeting. One of our friends was like, oh my God, because Cade was working as a full-time makeup artist at the time. And my brother-in-law was like, oh my God, you should do Gigi's makeup. And then one day he just came over to the house and we did it. We hit it off. And he wasn't trans then, but I always kind of knew, like, I think I have kind of this like trans radar. I've always kind of felt, you know, uh, kind of
Like
passionate about
almost like
that,
a
or like that's a
almost like a sixth
thing.
sense for sort of them to intuition. Yeah.
Kind of, yeah. So I remember one day I asked him, I was like, "What's your name?" And he was like, "Well, you know my name." I was like, "No, no, no, but like really, like the real
Mm.
name." And it took him a minute, and then it really just opened up this whole can of worms where we became extremely close, extremely able to share very intimate parts of our lives, and it just really furthered our relationship in like a really organic way. It wasn't being pushed, it was just life events. And then obviously my husband being trans and a man made them super close, so we
Hmm.
just became super like this really tight little threesome group of these trans individuals sharing each other's experiences and learning things off each other. So it was just so organic. And then, I don't even know how many years ago that was. Like it's
Right.
one of those friendships that you're like, wait, when was that? Like it
Right.
just feels like you were always in each other's lives.
100%. Yeah. And so when Gottmik became the first trans man to compete on RuPaul's Drag Race, which was such a moment, and that was
Such a moment. Oh my
such a
God.
great season. What was that like for you to see that? Because that really was that pushed things forward a lot, I think, in that world.
Yes. And it was something that was so needed on that franchise for so long, I feel, because
Hmm.
there had been trans women, a few, but I think him being the first, there was just, I mean, let's talk about the pressure of that. That
Yeah.
is so much pressure for him to be, like the whole community on his shoulders. It's just, I can't even imagine.
Right.
But he was so eloquent in the way he spoke, and he really just did, for lack of a better term, kill it. Like I was so just proud of him every single episode that came out. Of course, it's all a secret, so like he barely even told, us anything. He couldn't.
Yeah.
But we were just so thrilled, and his parents were so thrilled, and like the community was just so amazed by him. And it's something to be said about like some, like, you see someone's superpower on TV, but to know them behind the scenes and just to let them know that they've had that moment, and like all the love that's coming to them is just it's such a surreal moment. And I was just
Mhm.
so happy that everyone saw him in the light that I do.
100%. And I think it's really cool also that Gottmik is one of, I mean, a ton of queens from that show over the years have continued on and made these huge platforms for themselves, and just really continued on in that trajectory. But I feel like Gottmik is kind of the top of that heap in recent memory for me. Like I feel like I see him in so many places, and he's so prominent, and he's still so celebrated, even though it's been a couple of years since he was on the show. And I think
Yeah,
that's also a really cool thing that he's been able to do, which is again continue that momentum, which is really, I mean, not everybody can do that.
right. It's a testament on like his talent and his character and like his work ethic, all of the
Totally,
things.
totally.
Fizzle out after that show, but I think that it was impossible for him to do so because he had so much work to do still,
Mm,
frankly.
mm, for sure. So also in the book, you have some, I think you mentioned this, but you have some contributors. You have some people who are allies, also part of the trans community. You have Senator Sarah McBride, you have Adam Lambert, you have one of your good friends, Paris Hilton. What do they share in the book? Sort of what do their contributions look like? What can people expect from that?
So Kate and I are only two people, and we thought that it would be, it would be so ignorant for us, especially writing such an educational
Sure.
book with so many different facets, to just have it be our voices. So we reached out to a lot of our friends, and three of those that you named are our close friends. But we also reached out to some people, and we were like, we really respect their work. We really want them involved. Let's just ask them. Like, like we just wanted every single walk of life. I know, like, I don't want to give too much away, but there's
Okay.
just like so many juicy chapters, and we just kind of left it up to them. We said, the book really does touch on everything in the trans experience. Like, what do you feel comfortable sharing?
Mm.
Or like, is there a story you've never told? Or there something that changed your life? And we hopped on the phone with them or met with them in person, and then quickly, it really did not take long for anybody, really. It was like, okay, I'm going to write about this. And we're like, okay, we have a concept. And then we
There we
would just
go.
work them in, and then it would be something that would be lost in the chapter if they weren't involved.
Sure.
So it ended
Yeah.
up really working out. And I think people also might get misconstrued that this is just a book for trans people. Like I said before, our parents, whatever, wrote in it, but there are so many tips for allies too, like Paris
Yes.
Hilton being one of them. Of course, she's not a trans woman, but she was one of my biggest inspirations growing up. Her aesthetic, her vibe, her positivity, her personality. So that's something to be said about the book as well. It's just about the human experience, but it's a lot to do with being trans. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, Paris is also one of the people that for me, I mean, I just growing up was just such a figure of like, and I did glom onto her as well.
Yeah.
And you becoming such great friends with her and striking up such an incredible relationship with her. And she's such a great ally to you. It's an ally and friend and just figure in your life. I would just love to hear a little bit more about that. Cause again, like I remember I listened to your podcast episode on her podcast and it's so clear that you two have connected on a really deep level. And I would love to hear you speak a little bit more to that and how she's been there for you over the years.
She is like the sweetest person ever. She's always been so sweet. I think the way to our both of our hearts is through our humor. And I think, there's tons of aspects within our life that we take very seriously, but I think when it comes to our humor, we're just like goofballs and super
Yeah.
fun. And I think that we're just like we're just always laughing and cracking jokes together. Some of which may be at like inappropriate times, which is like my favorite
Some of the
kind of.
best humor is that way, you know?
Yeah, so I think it was just something that was just drawn. I mean, immediately when I met her, I was like, oh my God, Paris Hilton. Like I've loved her forever. But she just breaks down that wall. She's super,
Yeah.
super sweet. And I think that that's just a testament to like her longevity in this industry and just to her character in general. Like I mean, I've met so many of my heroes and they've just been assholes
Mm,
and cold, and she's just not like that at all. And anybody that you talk to that knows her will tell you that she's exactly like that, because that's just how she is. But yeah, I'm very, very blessed to call her a friend, and she's a really, really good one. And I'm so excited for also all the good that she's doing, because
yeah.
I think for a lot of the time in her career, people were like, oh, she's, that famous for being famous thing. But she is like passing laws in DC right
Mm,
now. She's making change. And I think that this is such a new era for her. And I'm so proud of
totally.
her for it. And I stand behind everything that she has to do. Even though I can't relate, I completely understand and I'm there for it. And
100%.
although she can't relate with being trans, she's there for me as well. And I think that also just speaks to her character and like her heart.
And you're both releasing books this year, which you know what I mean? I read her memoir earlier this year and I'll be reading the Tea Guide. So you guys are
Yes,
both sharing your
yes, yes, yes.
stories, continuing to do
Yay. I
so.
know her memoir's so good.
So good. I like want more. I want a sequel to
Juicy.
that.
Yeah.
um, so Gigi, I mean, you mentioned like you've been in the public eye for over 10 years now, and your transition has happened over the course of that time. And I think so much progress has been made over the past decade, just in terms of representation and what even brands who brands are even willing to work with, and just I think a lot of that has come a long way. But I'm curious for you if you've seen either from firsthand experience or just from observing, you know, when people are sort of in that partnership for the right reasons or just doing it to provide lip service. Because I think we're coming up on Pride Month, and I think there's a lot of talk around sort of like the corporatization of Pride and sort of some of those kind of subjects that can come up of that. I wonder if you have any thoughts on that, because it's something that I'm definitely thinking about just, again, as we go into Pride Month.
I mean, I've always said it's so easy for brands or storefronts to just throw up a rainbow flag during the
Right.
month of June, but it's something to be said if their support is there year round. And I think that a lot of brands and people and companies are really coming around to the thought of working with trans people. And I think that that's really what the book is all about. It's that we are people, we are equal, and we should be seen just as much as a, quote unquote, whatever they think is a regular person.
Right.
And with Pride Month coming up, I'm really excited actually as well to see the campaigns and who brands are working with, because I've seen in the past few months, brands really openly working with trans people, and
Yep.
it's beautiful because it's before Pride, which is like, okay, that's a step forward.
It's
But
not
it is
June.
also,
Okay. Yep.
it's so easy just to throw up a rainbow in your
Of
window.
course. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it really does it speaks volumes, and people within the community know, but I think now it's kind of almost becoming on everybody else's radar, because it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I think it's just we're more out and loud and proud than ever.
Yeah,
So can't ignore
100%.
it.
And we
Can't
love to
ignore
see it 100%. And we alluded to sort of just how this book is coming out at such a divisive time, especially as it pertains to the trans community, and how just so many, again, bills are being put up there and books are being banned. It's honestly, it's hard to even keep track of everything, that all those conversations. And so I'm wondering if, just from your perspective, if there are things that you can suggest for people watching or listening to this, that what can they do to help or be a good ally? What are some things that you kind of are top of mind for you when I ask that question?
I'm a huge fan of podcasts right now. And one of my favorite ones is called Out and About. It's with Joey and Pat on Barstool Sports. And they are
Okay.
kind of like the gay podcast. And that just is like at the top of my mind. I feel like, and they're also like really dirty and raunchy, which like I love. I think that's fun. But
Wow.
supporting queer art has always been number one to me. Even as a trans woman, I feel like it's very important just to incorporate queer art into my life and make sure that it's being supported and seen and all of that good stuff. But I think for allies in general, it's just so important to show up and show out and be there for the queer community, especially with Pride coming up. And I know we just said it's so easy to throw a rainbow flag in a storefront wall, but it's like, you have this time, you have this month, be loud and proud. Everyone's on social media. Really just share and celebrate queer people. It's so easy. It feels good when you do. And especially if you truly, truly are behind someone, don't be scared to repost their content
Right.
or talk about them to your family members or bring them up in conversation at dinner. Like, it's only spreading the word, and it's only spreading awareness and positivity. And at the end of the day, like, less violence.
Mm. Yeah, I think sometimes people think that even just something so small as a repost or engaging in that conversation is not enough. But I think you're right. It's that it's something, it's doing something, even if you can think it's small.
Exactly. Doing something even as small as that is doing something way better than nothing
Hmm.
at the end of the day. And I
Yeah.
think, we write a lot about allies, and we write a lot with allies in this book. And there's so many great tips, and there's so many great, things that you would just take away with you. I've given the book to a lot of my close friends, and they have written back none of the same things that they've taken away, but they've written back, oh my God, like this really stuck with me, or like this will just, stay with me forever. Like, this is something that was a really strong moment. And it's interesting to hear everybody's perspectives, because I know them, they're my friends. I let them read it before it came out. And I'm like, really, that's what you took from it? So it just goes to show like how much information we've packed into one
Right.
book. And
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It just shows you that you guys really did, you mind the entire experience and I love that people are just going to be able to, again, they'll take what they take from it, and that's, again, that's doing something. So obviously right now we're focused on the tea guide, and we're so excited for that to come out next week. what else is on the horizon for Gigi Gorgeous? What else can you tease for me in terms of what's to come? Like, because I know you're over hand a lot of different pots.
Yes, definitely. I mean, nothing I could talk about right now, which is really
Okay.
annoying. But to piggyback off of the tea guide coming out, we will be doing a book tour.
Amazing.
Very exciting because we're working on it right now, and just with everything going on, I think that it's really important we visit certain cities, if you know what I mean. So we're working on that, and we're just really excited about that and getting that together and getting our book out there and seeing people. It's been a few years since my last book, and I know how exciting it is. So I'm excited to do it with somebody else.
Yeah, that'll be so fun. You're on this journey together. Are you guys going to come to New York?
Yes, we are.
Yes,
Yes,
I'm
we
going to try to be
are.
there. Good,
You have to
good.
come.
Yes, I'd love to. Well, Gigi, this is so much fun to get some time with you. I loved our conversation, and I can't wait to read the tea guide. I know it's going to be a resource, a valuable resource for so many people, both within the trans community and allies of the trans community, because I think there's so much for people to learn, and I'm so grateful that you are sharing it with the world. I think we're really lucky to have you doing that.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Oh my God, I
It's
can't wait for you to read it also, another thing in the book is the photos. Him and I are
mm,
such like aesthetic people. There's like so many fashion photos. There's so many
good. Okay, we're
photos.
serving looks. Okay.
Yeah, oh my God, beyond. So I'm excited to see which everyone's favorites are because I know I have mine. But that's another thing. I want to see which people bring to us to like sign at book signings and stuff,
Totally.
like on their favorite picture. That's another thing I'm really
I mean,
excited.
the cover alone is like breathtaking. I like it's so striking. It's such a great cover. It really
Thank
is.
you.
Oh
Thank you.
my
I'm
God.
in love with it. I'm in love with
Yes.
it. I think
It's
it's so
beyond.
powerful. Just
Yeah.
down the middle. And like us sharing a necklace too. So cute.
It's so cute. Oh, it's the best. Well, Gigi, this is so fun. Thank you so much. And everyone pick up the tea guide this coming Tuesday. It's out wherever you get your books. And again, it's gonna be a resource that's there forever now. So how special is that?
Yes.
Oh
Yes.
my
Thank you
God.
so
Of
much. Thank
course.
you.
Thank you
I'm
so much for
excited.
taking the
One
time.
week.
Yay. Oh my God. Thank you.
All right. See you in New York.
Thanks for tuning in to We Should Talk. I hope you enjoyed the interview. You can find out more about In the Know at intheknow.com. You can follow me, Gibson Johns, at Gibsonoma on Twitter and Instagram. And you can listen to all of our interviews, past and future, by searching We Should Talk wherever you get your podcasts. Hope to see you next time.